what's something else that we wanted to cover? Oh, well, I mean, we kind of talked about it, but this is what we were talking about at the end at the end of Sunday's class. We train and teach on Sunday morning.
Hmm.
It's like our day, and then sometimes on Tuesday nights when there's one of our other coaches, Michael, and he like coaches the class. Which is good to have somebody else, coaching and bringing other ideas in and
Hmm.
way to develop. But something that we were talking about at the end of class is the idea that when you're a young gymnast and you're training, and not necessarily for the elite level, but sometimes for towards the elite levels, how there's like an end game. Like there's an end point
You
rather.
have an expiration date. When I was competing, that expiration date was 16. Everybody seemed to think that a peak gymnast was at 16, and the ones that we sent to the Olympics, the ones that were winning were usually 16. The problem with that was the minute I turned 17, I thought that's it. My career was over. I'm still in high school and I'm thinking I'm done. And I was really devastated. I was sad thinking that there was no point to working towards those skills I'd been working at because I was past my peak and I was just starting the downhill. And that caused a lot of depression. I mean, it caused a whole lot of problems when I'm being photobombed by crazy. It caused just so much insecurity to be done at that young age. And it was I feel sad for the younger me because it was so wrong. But you believed it core, just in my heart, I believed I was done. There was nothing else I could learn. And that's one reason we're here now is to break that stigma. You are not done. You never have to be done. We know now that older people can learn new skills. And there are some skills that maybe I won't do now, like a double full was one that I was close to at that time
Mhm.
and I never really got. So, but you know what? I'm not necessarily ruling it out either.
Right.
Maybe not on floor, but maybe on tumble track or trampoline. There's no reason I need to rule it out because if you look at that movement analysis for it on the tumble track, the impact's taken care of. My body can handle tumble track impact. I have a nice mat to land on. So all I need to get is the air aware. I have the strength to do the skill.
Mhm.
All I need to do is get my timing in the air right
Mhm.
and develop the right types of progressions to not hurt myself. But as far as strength, mobility, and impact, that's handled. The impact is handled with the equipment. I have the strength. The trampoline would do a lot of it. So there's no reason that skill can't be on my agenda.
All
I
right,
have
Sunday, we start
Well,
with
I
your
need to
one and
get
a
a little
half.
more consistent in the full first, and then we can move on to a one. I have it all set in my head,
Okay.
but yeah, there is no expiration date. It's just a matter of training smarter and maybe training different and maybe modifying things a little bit to accommodate your older body.
Well, and I think that the proof is in the pudding with adults who are starting it as adults. So people like me who didn't, my mother never put me in gymnastics or skiing or any kind of sport like that because she didn't want me to like get hurt and be injured because it would hurt my dance career.
Mhm.
But so it was something I always loved and was fascinated by and wanted to do, but like never did. So when I had the opportunity to start, and it was starting at literally like just jump on the X, and that's all you're gonna do. But it gave me this avenue of learning, not just, training my body, but a process of learning that nothing else gave me. And so I think that this is this, I want to say way of life, not to be dramatic or anything, but being in gymnastics, I feel like it's kind of a way of life, a way of learning, a way of
Mhm.
existing that is so very different from like, the normal waking up, do your business and go to bed.
Everything they say you need to be doing to prevent dementia. It's the ultimate anti-dementia program. You're training your brain in all sorts of new ways and it never really stops because as soon as you get one skill, you have to look at another skill and you have to still do the same thing. Well, this is a different skill. This one's going forwards instead of backwards, or it's twisting this way instead of that way. Or, I mean, every skill has its own unique principles using different muscles.
Yeah.
But one thing too about gymnastics that's great is you get to pick the skills. So one thing that we still did, and we do together, and we do with new people, you're always watching other people, you're always learning other things. But when I was younger and competing, we'd go through the FIG code of points to look at every skill that was in that book to see what we could do and what we couldn't. And of course, you pick things that are good for your body. Things that are good for short powerhouses like Simone Biles weren't as good for people like Svetlana Horkina, who was these were both elite gymnasts, but Svetlana Horkina was a very tall, thin, ballet-esque type body gymnast. And they chose very different skills.
Right.
We're working on the Anodi on the trampoline, and the Anodi is done very beautifully by, well, of course, Henrietta Anodi, but I don't think you would see someone like Simone Biles or Michaela Skinner doing an Anodi because it takes a little bit more flexibility. And those two gymnasts are powerhouse gymnasts, so they pick different skills. So there's all sorts of skills. And if somebody comes in and doesn't even know where to start, you can kind of look at where are you as far as strength and mobility, and you pick the skills that they can learn and have success with what they have while you're working on other things. So there's always another skill to learn that is always going to use a different part of your brain. So it's really,
I love that. And doing combinations of movement is such an important practice. I hate it because my memory is so poor, my short-term memory. So I'll say, okay, and this happened on Sunday. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this skill and then this skill and then this skill and then this skill. And my endurance and my strength can handle it, but my brain doesn't fire quite as quickly as I need it to. So I'll be like in the middle of the thing, and then I'll forget what I'm doing. I forget like what my plan was. So it's a really important way to practice memory stuff alone for somebody who's older. Right.
And one of the more fun activities we've done in the gym is that add-on game. It's a really simple game on trampoline. Add-on, one person does a skill, the next person does that skill plus adds one more. And what's been great about that when we've done it in the gym is that we do set parameters, that we do skills that everybody can do, but everybody has fun. It doesn't matter if you're an advanced level person or a beginner level person. When you have that challenge of having to put the skills together back to back to back and remember them, even the simpler skills you can be very challenging to do, and it's like, it turns gymnastics into a group activity. Gymnastics is much more collaborative than people think it is. It takes a lot of people to get one skill, and you should see how excited people get when somebody's been coming to the gym for a while and they're working on a skill, and it doesn't matter if it's a basic core skill or if it's a more advanced skill. You see somebody working on that skill week after week, and then that first time that they get it, and the whole gym goes crazy for them.
It's true. It's like screaming. I was working on mill circles, and which apparently some young child on TikTok told me that's not a mill circle, that's whatever they call it now. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, Tammy told me it was a mill circle, so I'm gonna go with her. But I, like that first time when you get all the way around from the top of the bar all the way back to the top of the bar, and it happens, and it's so shocking, and it's like, it's exciting.
And when the whole gym's watching you, everybody's excited for you. It's like
amazing. It's amazing. And that happens for everybody. And it, like you said, it doesn't matter what level you're at. It could be just completing, 10 tuck jumps for the very first time. And it's like, yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool.
So the other thing I wanted to kind of talk about was goals. You had mentioned something about goals. And I've thought a lot about goals. So the word goals is a very loaded term. And it took a big mind shift to get away from my clinical sense of goal. Goals are supposed to be measurable, achievable, and have a set time frame. I no longer set goals, at least not for skill achievement, with a time frame. Because setting a time frame, if you have an end date, I must get this by that. And I say that now, but it's not true. So I had actually set a goal where I wanted to be doing a standing back tuck on the floor by my birthday, and I didn't make that goal. And that was very disheartening. And I had to remind myself the date itself is not important. The important thing was 2 years ago, you didn't think you could do that skill. It's true. I didn't. And you've known me for how long? How long have I been working standing back tucks? Because for years, I thought it was not achievable, though. It's only in the last 2, maybe 3 years that I started doing them regularly. I would do them off of very high things that I knew I could do. But I didn't really think in my core that it was something I could achieve. But the minute I set a date, I wanted to have it by this date. That put an abnormal amount of pressure on me. And then when I didn't make that date, I was not particularly happy with myself. And so what happened? The fun and the joy of practicing the skill kind of went away. So end dates, there is no need to have an end date. It's all that progress is not linear as long as you're progressing. So even though I didn't make the date, I've still made huge progress towards that skill.
Well,
And you
I think
see,
that understanding that this is an ongoing thing. We're not, you don't turn 53 and then suddenly you're not doing gymnastics anymore. No, we're just going to keep going. And there are so many factors that are variables that can change. You could be just tired one day, or maybe yesterday you didn't realize this, but you did something that's affecting your muscles that's, maybe they're not quite as strong as they normally would be, like they were last week. And we have to take into account there's those variables that change our ability to perform in any given direction on any given skill. So one week we feel like things are super strong, and then the next week, like it's like we just completely lose the thing, and we're like, well, what
Mhm.
happened? I just had this. But there's so many things that are getting in our way, and we just have to kind of like let things go, maybe put it to the next week and then try again.
So the new rule or goal is whatever you're working on, it has to be fun. So it doesn't matter if it's a skill you could get next week. If it's not fun today, then it's perfectly okay to do something else and put that one off for a little bit. And I have people asking me that a lot, not me personally, but on Instagram, there's a community of us. Oh, look what I did. Is this something I should be working? And it's all, is it fun for you? Is it fun for you, or has it become frustrating? Because every skill has the potential to be fun, or it has the potential to be frustrating.
Mm.
And you know how that is. A lot of times, the closer you get to it, the more frustrating it becomes because you're so close.
I can taste it.
and and that's when you tend to get in your head a little bit too much. But if you push yourself too hard, you'll make mistakes that could cause injuries. So that's just it. If you feel yourself reaching that threshold, you have to take a step back. And that's something that I think we've both done too when we're working with other people, where you see them, they're going, "Ugh," and they're starting to get mad at themselves. It's like, you know what? Take a break. Don't take a break from gymnastics, but go to another event, do something else for a while, give your brain time off, because now you're overthinking it. And that's something that adults, I think, do a lot more than the kids. We overthink. Um, do something else, because you're not having fun right now and you're here to have fun. If it becomes not fun, then you need to go do something that is fun.
I remember when I was training earlier on with my first coach. He always limited the amount of times that we were like allowed to do something.
Mhm.
Attempts, not, and that's
Right.
that's why on Sunday I started going with the attempts
Right.
concept.
5 attempts.
Right. So if you don't get it in 5 attempts, you're doing something else. Just move on to
Mhm.
something else. And I think I believe that that's because we get so in our heads about, oh, I didn't get it. Now I have to get up and do it again. Okay, I have to do it again.
Mhm.
Okay, I have to do it again. And then you've just exhausted yourself doing the wrong thing,
Mhm.
reinforcing the wrong thing, instead of, sort of focusing and saying, okay, these are the pieces that I have to put together in order to get to this end goal. um, and if I know that I only have 5 attempts or 3 attempts or 20 seconds to get this done, I'm going to be much more efficient and smart with my thinking as I'm approaching it. And if I fall on my butt 5 times, then I know I'm tired, whatever, and I need to just kind of move to something else.
Mhm. Yeah. And it was also breaking it up with various stretches and exercises throughout. Like, you go jump on the trampoline for 10 or 15 minutes, and then you go sit in your splits. You certainly don't sit in your splits the first thing you do when you come into the gym, but it's a nice rest activity. When you go jump on the trampoline, you get sweaty, you get tired, you get your muscles very, very warm. And then instead of resting and just sitting on the sidelines, you sit in your split so that you're stretching your split for a good long time while you're catching your breath with good warm muscles. And then you go back and you do something else for a while. And then after you do that, well, then go stretch go to the beam or go to a mat and do the, prayer shoulder stretch for a while.
Yeah. We haven't done that in a while. We have to like get that.
No, we probably should do that. I actually did it last weekend, so I was thinking about
And I was like, oh, it hurts so good.
it. Yeah.